Before we start today's episode, I want to quickly share something I've been working on. It's called the consistency reset, and I created it for women who are tired of starting over with diets, workouts, and healthy habits. Because most women don't fail because they lack motivation. They struggle because the plan is too strict, too complicated, or simply doesn't fit real life. Inside the consistency reset, you start with the short quits, and then you get the personalized plan with simple daily actions, realistic strength workouts, practical nutrition habits, and reset tools for the days when life gets busy. So if you miss a workout, overeat, have a stressful weekend, or feel like you are falling off track, the goal is not to start over again. The goal is to take next small step and keep going. If that sounds like what you need right now, you can take the quiz and build your personalized plan through the link in the show notes. But now, let's get into today's episode. Today's conversation is about something I believe every woman should hear, especially after 40 and 50, strength training. And I know that for many women, those two words can feel intimidating. Maybe you think strength training means lifting very heavy weights. Maybe you think you need to go to a gym full of machines you don't know even how to use. Or maybe you are worrying about getting injured. Or maybe you haven't exercised in years and you feel like it's too late to start. Or maybe you have spent most of your life doing cardio and now wondering whether strength training really matters as you get older. My guest today is Jeanne Phares, the author of the Beginner's Guide to Strength Training for Women over 50. And I think this is such an important conversation because strength training is not only about how your body looks, it's about what your body can do. Getting up from the floor, carrying groceries, climbing stairs, traveling, playing with your children or grandchildren, protecting your independence, and feeling confident in your own body. So today I want to keep this conversation very practical. Where should a complete beginner start? How much strength training do you really need? Do you need heavy weights? And how do you know whether you are doing enough? And how can women build strength without making fitness another overwhelming job? Thank you so much for joining me. So, John, before we get into practical side of strength training, could you share a little bit about your own background and what led you to this work?
Yes, so I have always strength trained. My husband and I, we've been married 39 years this year, and we went to the gym on our first date together. So it's always been an important part of our lives. And so I was working out very consistently over my whole life. And when you're younger, it's a lot more about physique and you don't think so much about, skeletal muscle and how important this is for longevity and healthy aging. But when I was 55, in what I would consider the best shape of my life, I woke up one morning with a rash. And when I went to the doctor, I found out that I had leukemia. And I had an especially aggressive leukemia that had about a 30% chance of survival. Spoiler alert, 8 years later, I'm still here. So it's a happy story in the end. So when I asked my doctor, I'm like, how did I get cancer? I am literally the healthiest person I know. I mean, I have spent years studying nutrition, and I was actually 2 classes away from a master's in nutrition when I was diagnosed. And he said, well, we don't know where this kind of cancer comes from, but the fact that you are in good shape, that you're strong, that you don't have high blood pressure, you don't have diabetes, you're not taking a bunch of medicines, you're not overweight, will allow you to be given the most harsh treatment. And, because they really fight cancer by giving you, poison to kill the cancer. And you will likely be a candidate for a better outcome. And that really sat with me. And I kept that sort of mindset the whole time I was in the hospital. So I made myself get out of bed every morning at 7 a.m. and I would not turn the TV on. And I would not get back in bed till 7 o'clock that night. If I was tired and needed a nap, I would do it in the chair by the window. But I crocheted and I read and I listened to music. And my husband brought me a little, Alexa pod, and I would listen to what was going on and in the world, and really tried to live as if this was something I was going to get through. And I think mindset is so important. And I think when you start this kind of work, if you've never worked out before and you're not sure where to start, or you worked out a long time ago, but things are changing because now you're in midlife and you've hit 40 or 45 or 50, and all of a sudden all the weight is moving to your middle, and the things you did before are not working. You need to have that mindset that I can get back. I can get to where I want to be. I can age healthy. I can build skeletal muscle, which you absolutely can in midlife. I think, we used to think that, if you didn't, build your muscle and your bone when you were young, then by the time you got old, you were just sort of, out of luck. And then also for women my age, I mean, our mothers, they didn't work out. So we didn't have a role model, really. And when I went and looked for books for women in midlife about strength training, I couldn't find anything. Everything was for younger women, and everything had, 20-year-olds on the covers. And I decided to write the book, and my writing coach at the time said, I don't know if there's a market for this book. And I said, there absolutely is a market. There's just a hole in it because nobody is thinking about this huge cohort of women that don't know what to do. And so the book really does take you through, doing a strength assessment and, certainly talking to, your medical professionals if you need to, depending on what kind of concerns you might have. But it gives workarounds if you have, arthritis or something, but it also has advanced moves. Because I think what women are going to find when they start working out is that you will advance very quickly.
Oh, yeah.
And you start to feel strong. And when those chemicals, the endorphins and the dopamine and all that stuff starts flowing, and you start seeing changes in your body, and all of a sudden, your pants fit a little better around the waist, you get motivated. And that motivation is what drives you. And so I try always when I'm coaching women to let them know to not judge by the scale. The scale is one data point, and it lies to you because, muscle weighs more than fat. So you can, and muscle is much more condensed than fat. Yeah. So you lose this much fat, and now you have this much muscle. Your body has shrunk, but your weight has not changed. So you really have to understand some of these nuances so that you don't get, you don't get discouraged. I also teach women. I've worked over the course of my life with probably 20 different personal trainers, and I work with women on how to find a good trainer that understands women in midlife, that isn't going to hand them weights that are too heavy and end up, hurting a joint or, and not all trainers, I think not all trainers are taught about, the changes that are hormonal changes and changes that are happening for a woman in midlife. But, a lot of them have different specialties. Like I used to work out with a former Mr. America. And, at the time I wanted, as much muscle definition as I could get. So I searched out a trainer. And when I first met him, he said, I'm not a fitness trainer. Get fit on your own. I'm a physique trainer. And I'm like, well, that's what I'm looking for. But if you don't understand kind of these differences, then, you could end up just having not a good fit. But also, if you don't want to go to the gym, if you want to just work out at home, there's a whole section on how to set up a home gym. And, what you need is a mat so you can lay on the floor and do chest press or something. You don't need a bench. You need a couple of light dumbbells and a chair. So if you want to do squats, so that you don't go too low or not low enough. You squat till you hit, so your bum just hits the seat of the chair, and then you come back up. And so it gives women an entry point for if they've never worked out before. But the book also has some advanced movements for women who maybe they used to work out and they sort of remember, but they want to know, like, why isn't all the cardio I used to do working? And why building muscle in midlife is so important. And our mothers didn't know this because they didn't have role models and they didn't go to the gym. And I mean, even when I was young, and you try to find a strength training magazine for women, you'd find sort of these Weider publications with these extreme bodybuilding women, and it's like and that's another question I get. It's like, oh, I don't want to have big muscles.
Oh yeah.
And I tell women, you're not going to get big muscles because you have about 1/10 of the testosterone that men have. And to get muscles like that is an extreme lifestyle. There's a woman I follow on YouTube, and I read the comments people make, and she's in like 58 and she's very cut, and people are like, well, I don't want to look like her because her arms look like a man's. And I always, one, I would kill or die to look like that, but I just don't have the genetics,
Yeah.
But I always tell people, okay, one, that woman has a lifestyle of very disciplined eating, very disciplined supplementation, very disciplined exercise. You are not going to look like her. And she is not saying you're going to look like me. She's saying, here are some simple moves that you can do. And at 58, I'm able to maintain the physique I want, and you can get the physique you want. So I love her, and I'm constantly trying to navigate all the comments from people that just don't understand. But anyway, I hope that kind of gives you a little bit of my background, and I hope it's coming through how passionate I am about this.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and it makes me so much smile with all those things, because it's also a thing what I keep hearing all the time, like what you mentioned, getting big muscles, and I think that it's now maybe it's getting a little bit better, but it was at least earlier, and people who are in their 50s, 60s, they were growing up with maybe 90s or in beginning of 2000 still, when there was not much internet and it was all about magazines and posting those bodybuilder pictures, and then for somehow it stayed inside that I'm going to look like that. And as soon as you start to see that actually when you are flexing some muscle, that it's growing, and then it's that immediate fear that, oh my God, I'm going to look like a bodybuilder, and I want to look, have just little bit more toned muscles, and look a little bit better and feel better. And then it's like, but like you said, that there are, how many women are there who are actually trying to look like a bodybuilder, but they are not able to look because it takes so much discipline with your nutrition, with your workouts, and it's even you are doing everything perfectly, you need still also some genetics to do it. So it's actually very hard job to be able to look like that. And for sure, it doesn't happen by accident if you lift weights a couple times per week. So I hope that is one of those misconceptions. Are there some other, like you mentioned already, a couple biggest fears and misconceptions, but what else you have in your mind, or what you hear from women before they start?
Well, I mean, women are afraid of getting hurt. And I tell them, you really should be afraid of falling down because it's so easy. I mean, I think in the past month, about 3 of my friends and myself have fallen down. The other day, I was in my living room, and I turned around and I stepped on the edge of the dog bed, and the dog bed slipped and I went down. And I feel like if I wasn't strong enough to sort of be able to, adjust my body and um, the way you fall becomes a little bit more automatic, I think, if you're stronger. I think it could have been a lot worse. And, my mother fell when she was in her late 60s and broke her hip. And it was really the beginning of the end. And it really, it affects you when you see people in your life that you love struggle like that. So building skeletal muscle is the most important thing you can do. And so I see a lot of women, they're like, well, I do Pilates and I do yoga and I walk my dogs, and I'm like, those things are all lovely. But I will contend that if you only have time to do one thing a day, it needs to be strength training. If you only have time, not a day, but one thing. And I usually say start off, twice a week. And don't put so many restrictions around it. It's like, you don't have to start off doing 3 sets of 12 of something, start off just doing as many as you can to see how many you can do. And then, you fine tune it. This needs to be a lifestyle change and choice in your brain, not a destination. It is a marathon, not a sprint, right? So come at it with a mindset that I don't have to do, this workout today. But I need to start building muscle for longevity today. And I think, I think Pilates is great. I think yoga is great. I think walking is great. Your heart is a muscle and it needs to be exercised too, but not at the same level that maybe you did in your 20s and 30s, because that kind of exercise increases cortisol, and cortisol is tempered. I don't want to get too scientific here, but it is tempered by estrogen. And in midlife, your estrogen is, but jumping all over the place. So you maybe don't have anything to temper the cortisol response. And that is one of the reasons why you're putting the weight on around your middle. So the cardio isn't necessarily helping you. You need to do enough to where you can speak while you are working out, while you're doing your cardio, so that you are exercising your heart, but not doing so much to create a cortisol response. I think yoga is amazing. I mean, in terms of mobility and flexibility, these things are important too. But cement your strength training practice first. And then, another question, and I think you probably get this a lot too, is do I have to lift heavy? Well, I would say that in midlife, one of the greatest inventions, I guess, that I was introduced to is something called super slow, where you pick up a much lighter weight, but instead of doing, say, a 2 or 3 second curl up or down, you do 10 seconds up and 10 seconds down. So you can lift a much lighter weight and still get to muscle failure, which is something else I want to talk about too. But if you were to do super slow for 20 seconds for each complete, rep, you would get 6 in. And if you can do 6, and you get to muscle failure, or close to it, you can get the same kind of muscle strength. Now, lifting heavy, it kind of depends on what your goals are, right? So lifting heavy will really help you, get more muscle growth, I think. And you're probably much better to articulate this than I am. And, but if your goal isn't to, if you're afraid you're going to look like a man, or you don't want big muscles, or you just want to be toned, super slow, it's really hard to get hurt if you're lifting a really light weight. Because, it's like if you're trying to lift a heavy weight, and let's say you're doing a bicep curl, and I know you can't see me very well on the screen, but, if you're having to do this to get that weight hoisted up, guess what? You're not doing it right, because you're trying to work your bicep, and now you've involved a lot of other stuff in this area in an incorrect way, which is going to end up hurting you. And the last thing you want in midlife is an injury. because
yeah.
it is much harder to recover.
Yeah.
So then in terms of, so I would say you don't have to lift heavy, and I would say don't lift heavy. And, because I have a history with, bodybuilding and strength training, and I like it, there are still some things that I do heavy with my trainer because, I still have those glory days in the back of my head of when I, when I work out really hard. But for the most part, I do a super slow workout, and
Yeah.
it keeps me strong, and it keeps me toned, and it keeps me fit and upright, which at this age is so important.
It's so crucial.
I mean, I don't think people want to live to 120, right? They just don't want to end up in a nursing home.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the best thing you can do for yourself is to build skeletal muscle. Everything else is secondary. Not that you shouldn't put all those other things in, but organize it in a way that gives you the best opportunity for longevity.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, and I just wrote a second book called Eating for Strength for Women Over 50, which is the sister book to the strength training book, which is all about a protein forward diet. So, you want to build this muscle, but you need to support it nutritionally. And as we age, we don't absorb the amino acids from protein as well. And so changing your diet and understanding that protein is so much more important than you ever thought it was, and making that the first thing you put on your plate. And it used to be back in the days, I mean, certainly in the US, when, we had the nutrition triangle thing that, the government, and it would say, oh, people are getting too much protein and you don't need that much protein. And, it's all been, research has debunked that mindset for many years now, but it takes time for people to catch up. So I would say your diet, start moving today and make your diet the very next thing that you're starting to look at to give yourself the best chance for aging healthy and longevity. And there was something else that you had asked about. I think I went off on a tangent, but anyway.
It's all good, all good. I keep asking you questions, and if you go off the script, feel free to do it, because there is no really script on it. Because it's all important, and because what I wanted to ask you and talk about a little bit, because when we talk about losing muscle with age, how much of that is really aging, and how much is simply because people stop using their muscles?
It's, I think it's tied together. So women start losing testosterone in their 20s. And when you hit midlife in 40s, your progesterone starts jumping around, and your progesterone is what helps you get good sleep, which is a whole nother important topic in this conversation. And then your estrogen is jumping around all over the place. And these three hormones, how they work together in your body, are now, used to be a symphony, right? And now it's like all over the place. They're not supporting each other the way they did. And estrogen supports muscle growth. And if you don't have estrogen supporting your muscle growth, you will start losing muscle. So women start losing muscle in their 30s, and at a slow rate. By the time you're in your 50s, you could be losing, 0.5% or percent of your muscle mass per year. And by the time you're in your 60s, that gets even higher. And I think the scary thing is, wherever you are, if you're in your 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, or beyond, start doing something now. It cannot be bad for you to lift something light and start thinking about, being able to get out of a chair by yourself and being able to lift your groceries and that sort of thing. But you are losing muscle, and you don't have the estrogen to support that muscle growth. So you need to be doing something else. And strength training does that. And also, we talk about bones because women in midlife are, at risk for osteopenia and osteoporosis. And what builds bone when you're, at any time is exercise that pushes on the long bones, right? Mm-hmm. So I always tell people, if you have a child or a daughter that's, anywhere up to like 35 years old, tell her to start running today, because that pounding on the long bones builds bone. You start to, there's a mechanism in the body where your cells are always turning over and your bone cells are no different, right? So your bone cells start to go, and there is another mechanism that remodels and rebuilds the bone. Well, that remodeling mechanism needs estrogen. And so if your estrogen is all over the place, this is why women are, prone to osteoporosis, because that remodeling isn't happening. So your bone is getting thinner. Mm-hmm. So again, before you start any of this, make sure you know where you are with your current bone health. But strength training and those movements of pushing weight helps to build bone as well as muscle. And so if you start off slow, and again, your beliefs inform your behavior, and you believe that this is good for me, this is something I need to do, that I want to do, that I'm going to get benefits from, that's going to help me age the way I want to age and have the independence that I want, then it's no longer I got to hit the gym 3 times a week and I have to do all of this stuff. I need to make an overall lifestyle adjustment. And I would say for a woman starting today, that lifestyle adjustment is start strength training twice a week. Start slow and start to think about your nutrition in a protein forward way. And then start working on balance and mobility exercises. And, that's the kind of stuff you do while you're watching TV. Get up off the sofa, put a chair next to you so that you don't fall, so that it's there if you can grab it, and stand on one foot for a minute. Maybe a minute is too long when you're first starting out. Stand on one foot for 10 seconds and then stand on the other foot for 10 seconds and work on those muscles that help you with your balance, because that is so important.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, this is, I love it, because it's I love to talk so much about strength, and it's not just about looking better. It's being able to get off the floor, carry groceries, climb stairs, traveling, and stay independent, like you said. But are there, in your opinion, some everyday tasks you consider almost like a real life strength tests?
Well, take the stairs, park your car. I always think it's crazy when you're in a parking lot and people are all like fighting for that spot next to the door. I always go to the furthest spot away I can find.
Yeah, I love it.
I get my car door, but I want my 10,000 steps, and I don't even know where the whole 10,000 steps a day came from, or if there's any science behind it, to be honest with you. But I figure it can't be bad, right?
Yeah.
And so this is kind of how you do the stuff in between is, take the stairs if you can, put yourself in a position to walk a little further for something, lift your own groceries. I mean, honestly, after my cancer treatment, the first time I was able to lift the groceries out of the back of my car, which was months, you would have thought the heavens opened and the angels were singing. I was so happy. It was just a huge, momentous step forward for me. And I was like, I want everyone to understand what a blessing it is to be able to pick up your own groceries.
Oh, yeah.
And then also, I talk a lot about the mindset shift. It's like, move yourself out of the mindset that this is what I'm just predestined to, this is just what happens. People just get old this is what happened to my grandmother and my mother, and this is just what happens. And I'm here to tell you that is not just what happens. You are in control of this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're all headed to the same place, right? 6 feet under. But
Yeah.
how you get there and the journey to that place is entirely in your control and in your mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one other thing that I wanted to say earlier that I think you had asked about, and that's um, um, do I have to like lift heavy and get to muscle failure? Because I always was taught you want to lift to muscle failure. And I think that depending on your goals, muscle failure, and you can probably speak to this more intelligently than I can, but if you really want to, build muscle from a physique perspective, I think that is important. But current research is saying for women in midlife, leaving 1 or 2 reps in the tank is actually not a bad thing to do, because one, you're less likely to lose your form
Mm-hmm.
and hurt something. And the amount of benefit you get from that, getting to that last, I really can't lift this weight any more
Mm-hmm.
than this, is a very small amount.
Yeah.
So, and that kind of goes to something that I really hope everybody hears, is that kind of remove all the noise. This is basic things that humans have been doing their whole life, right? Moving their bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to get overwhelmed by thinking I have to do all the things tomorrow. I have to learn all the exercises. I have to, start going to the gym. I have to have this protocol of exercises I'm doing. If you just go for a walk and take some light dumbbells and start doing that, so that eventually you will move up to doing, a full workout, that is beneficial. And I think when you start feeling good and you start feeling the benefits of what strength training does for you, because, there's, endorphins and dopamine that get released, and you start to feel good and you start to see changes in your body. You won't have to wonder if I'm going to be motivated to do this. You will be motivated to do it,
Oh, yeah.
because, physiologically, you feel good, you look good, your clothes are fitting better. The scale might not have moved, because we know that muscle weighs more than fat, but the tape measure will certainly move.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be one of your best friends when you're looking for motivation.
Oh, yeah. So it's I like to say it always like that. Often, like maybe that workout itself you will not be able to work or not feel motivated to do actually the workout, but you will love the way how you feel after and how it makes you feel in the long term. And this is like you said so well. And you mentioned a little bit about scale weight, because so many women are focusing only on the scale, and like it honestly it's very rare, especially in this age group, that I work with someone over 50 or 40 who are coming and they start to lift weights or do something, and they come after a week or two that, oh my God, I lost so much weight that I couldn't believe that it's possible. It's going almost too quickly. It's very rare. So it's very common that results are it takes a lot longer than you would like, and it takes a while that you start noticing some difference, especially on the scale. But there are some other ways, like you mentioned, tape measurements, pictures, your strength, measuring your strength, or exercises, how you are seeing that. But what other changes women often notice first before they see anything different in the mirror or on the scale?
Well, I mean, when you're exercising, you're using your heart, right? And um, you find that when you get a little bit, like, maybe you didn't know that you could pick up a weight and, and get 10 reps out or something. And so your mind really drives this motivation for you to want to do more. You start to feel better. Maybe, and, this is like the best kept secret. If you want to sleep well, and in midlife, right, our progesterone is jumping all over the place, and that's what helps us sleep. Um, when you strength train and, I mean, whether it's just the mechanism of your muscles are tired or other physiological things that are happening in the body, you start to sleep better. And when you sleep better, you feel better. Everything in life is better if you're getting a good night's sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's another important thing I think for people to understand is, you are not building the muscle necessarily when you are working out. You are building the muscle at rest.
Mm.
And sleep is so important for recovery. And, at this age also, you need maybe more days in between your strength training
Oh.
workouts. For me, I need 2 full days for recovery.
Mm.
And so it isn't just, oh, I work out Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's like, okay, I work out Monday and then 3 days later I work out and then 3 days later I work out. And so it just becomes, um, you give your body what it needs. And so if you're giving yourself time to recover, then you're not sore and you're not having a hard time standing up because you worked out too hard or didn't give yourself enough recovery time. You're sleeping better, so you're waking up feeling refreshed. These are the kind of things you're going to notice very quickly. Even being able to sit down in a chair and not flop down into the chair. you know, um, I think, I remember my father-in-law when he was older, he bought one of these chairs where you push the button and the chair comes up so that you can get out of it. And I remember thinking, I don't ever want to have to rely on a mechanical chair to make me help me get up out of it. And I understand different people have different, issues and things that with their body. But if you can do something about that by starting today, wherever you are, there is no good place to start. Today is the good day to start. Do something. The mindset shift that you get and just the feelings, the feeling better in your own skin is what's going to drive you, and and that's going to give you the motivation then to really start thinking about, you know, um, getting my workouts planned and getting my meals planned, and making sure I'm getting enough protein. And it really is like a snowball effect. There's a very short window in my mind of, I have to get up and exercise, or I'm going to end up,
Yeah.
6 feet under sooner than I want to. That I never meet anybody that has been exercising for any period of time that has that outlook, because it takes a very short period of time to start feeling so good about it.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
you get proud of yourself, and then you notice the impact you have on people around you, your children and your friends, and they're motivated by you. And when you realize, I'm a middle-aged, woman who may be slightly overweight, but I've started doing this and now all of a sudden my kids are proud of me. Trust me, you want to pick up that next weight. You want to buy that heart monitor and that pedometer and start measuring how many steps. You want to take the stairs. You want to park, 10 cars away instead of at the door. It's automatic.
Oh, yeah. So for someone who is just a beginner, like what kind of equipment would you recommend? Or like, of course, you basically don't need anything, but what would you, if you would recommend something? And if you could choose with those equipment, only 5 exercises for a beginner over 50, what they would be?
Okay. So I'm going to pull down the book just so that I can make sure that I'm telling you what I'm teaching. Oh, wrong book. This is also the tracker that goes with it, so that I think if you write down your goals, they're a lot easier to. I like exercises that kind of work more than one thing. So I like people to start off with a push-up because it works your chest and your back and your arms. Now, if you're saying, I've never done a push-up in my life and I don't think I could do one, start with the wall. So you stand about 1.5 feet away from the wall, you put your hands up on the wall, and you do your push-up.
Mm-hmm.
And, maybe you never go past doing wall push-ups, but eventually you'll do push-ups on your knees. And yoga, they always sell yoga stores, or even online, you can get knee pads.
Mm-hmm.
Get a knee pad. So you can do push-ups on your knees, and eventually you can do, push-ups on, regular, if you want to, military style push-ups or whatever. But if you never get to that, a push-up is a push-up, and you're still working the muscles that you should be working. So push-ups, number one. Squats are number two, because you want to get up and down out of your chair. And, when you start squats, I see online a lot of times people want you to go really low. I don't really like going lower than a 45-degree angle. The angle that you sit at a chair. I guess that's a 90-degree angle, sorry. And put a chair behind you, one of your kitchen chairs, and just squat low enough to where, your bum just hits the chair, and then you come back up. That way, you're going low enough so that you're, getting the work out of it, and you're not going too low, so you're not going to overextend your knees or something. So use whatever, tools you have. I'm trying to avoid all the exercises that I just love, because and I guess when you're thinking about the 5 main exercises you should do, think about your big muscle groups first, right? So your chest, your back, your quads, your glutes. If you're working your large muscles first, you're going to get the most benefit, and also you're going to be working ancillary muscles. So if you're doing a chest press and a push-up, you're getting your back and your chest. I really like shoulder work for women, because especially women in midlife, because I've had frozen shoulder before, and it is very scary when you can't lift your arm. So light weights, shoulder press, and I even think the best thing is to do combination movements. So with shoulders, your dumbbells, you do a curl and then a press, right? So you're getting 2 things in at once, and you're hitting sort of that whole upper body carriage. Your squats are hitting your quads and your glutes. And I really love, somebody asked me once what my goal for every woman was. I'm like, I want every woman in midlife to know how to do a proper deadlift. Because I think when you look at someone with really nice shapely legs, and as women, we still want to look good no matter what our age. A woman that has good hamstring definition, I think, just makes legs look so much better. And so in the book, I do go over how to do a proper deadlift. So that's what I would say start with. I mean, you don't have to be, if you do go to a gym, the nice thing about using a machine is just that the machine kind of keeps you aligned, right? You're not going to go off crazy. But if you're lifting, dumbbells light enough, and certainly at home, then you can do that. And, you can start off doing all of these things with no weights. You can buy yourself a band to do curls with. And the nice thing about bands is, you can get one band, and you can make it harder by just holding it closer, right? Hold it far away, it's easy to pull. Hold it closer, it's harder to pull. Anyway, have I given enough?
Yeah, no, thank you. It was very, very, very helpful. I think I know time is flying, and I know you have a next call. Last couple questions, because I know that so many women are not feeling confident going into the gym, and but how can someone build confidence before she feels confident?
there's this thing called the Wonder Woman stance, and we used to learn about it actually in business school before you go into a meeting, especially as a woman, because when you're in corporate America, a lot of those boardrooms are filled with men. But, you go into the bathroom before you go into the meeting, and you put your hands on your hips and you give yourself the Wonder Woman stance, which is, we all know who Wonder Woman is, right? And physiologically, that changes something in you. You stand up straight and, give yourself a little pep talk. But what I want every woman to know is if you are going to go to a gym, trust me, when you walk in there, no one is looking at you and thinking, why is this old lady in the gym?
No.
They are thinking, good for her. How motivating.
Oh, yeah.
When I used to run and I would see, people older than me running, I would just say, it was just so motivating. It was that's what I want to be. I want to make sure that I'm here. People encourage you. And I think, gyms have a reputation for being, scary places, but I find people that are in the gym working out to be some of the most, friendly and down to earth people that, want, it's like you're in a community of like-minded people, no matter where you are on your path.
Yeah.
So I would say, if you need to work out at home until you get a little bit more confidence, fine, but don't let confidence hold you back.
Yeah.
Trust me, none of those people are going to be there to pick you up off the ground when you fall because you didn't build muscle. So let's not worry about what any of those people think.
No, that's so well said. That it's true. I believe also that fitness people, at least when I work with my groups, and there is like I hear often that fear, like that I'm completely beginner. I'm not fit. Those other people are fit. You compare yourself, but it's actually very opposite. Like at least what I see in my groups, what I do, there are people. If some new is joining, they are cheering, supporting, and there to help, and not there is nobody who is laughing or looking like it. Oh, look how big she is or how beginner someone is. That's absolutely not the case. It's fitness people are often, they are very supportive, and especially for those, in my opinion, like people who are starting, like there are maybe some younger people, they are looking like, oh, what is that one doing here? But that is what it is. But especially if someone a little intelligence, seeing someone older or somebody is coming in, it's a huge respect right away that wow, this is somebody's, you try to do something for your health. One last question. What do you think, because we often speak about biggest mistakes, what is the biggest mistake women over 50 make when starting strength training?
Not starting.
That's so well. I was thinking that I hope you say it, but thank you.
There's no better time to start than today. Do something every day. It will come to you. And just remember, you don't have to do all the things all at once right away. There are guides out there. There's help out there. If you need the support, find a good trainer. Pick up a copy of the book. It is not translated into Italian yet, but I would certainly be willing to do that. Although everyone else in the world besides Americans speaks multiple languages.
But my podcast is in English, so I assume people who listen this will understand also. Even I'm living in Italy, but people will understand English. And I think most of my listeners are not actually from Italy. They are from US actually. But where people can find your book and learn more about your work?
On Amazon, and I have a website. If you find the book on Amazon, at the bottom it says Sage Lifestyle Press. That's me. And I am on TikTok and Instagram. It's like it's hard not to run into me somewhere. And maybe in your show notes, if you just put my email address. That would be great.
Absolutely.
And
I will put all the link for the Amazon book and your email. So thank you so much, Jen. You will find all information in show notes, so please make sure to check them out. So I really enjoyed this conversation, and I think the biggest reminder today is very simple. It's never too late to get stronger. You don't need to be young. You don't need to be athletic. You don't need to live in the gym, and you definitely don't need to be perfect. So, and please leave a 5-star review if you enjoyed the conversation, as those are helping so many more new people to find this podcast. And big thank you for those who have already left it. So thank you so much, Jeanne, and talk to you in the next episode.
Well, thank you, Drew. Bye now.
Awesome.
Cool. That was such a great conversation. Thank
Before you go, if you are tired of starting over every Monday, I want to invite you to check out the Consistency Reset. It's my new personalized coaching app for women 35 to 55 who want sustainable fat loss, simple workouts, practical nutrition habits, and support for real life. You will get daily actions, realistic workouts, and reset tools to help you keep going without guilt or perfection. You can take the quiz and build your personalized plan through the link in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening, and talk to you in the next episode.